State Auditor Cindy Byrd released another shocking audit showing more mismanaged COVID funds were spent on junk and non-governmental things. The report lays out more than $93 million between OMES and DHS, and it was misspent on management fees, bathroom and kitchen renovations, a Cadillac, and it even had a little bit of nepotism. Joining me on the program tonight, speaking unedited about her findings, is Auditor Byrd herself. Joining me on the program to speak unedited about her big audit that she released just yesterday is State Auditor Cindy Byrd herself. Thanks for joining me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Another shocking COVID audit. It seemed like class wallet, but a different pot of money. Is that right?
It's a different pot of money.
Okay.
These are bigger and more serious.
How you were doing a routine audit, is that correct? You didn't just go looking for this,
Right. This is a federal audit that's required by the federal government each year, and we are required to look at the federal expenditures for the state, and any findings that we have, we report back to the federal government as question cost.
I think something that perked my ears up was the feds want some of their money back.
They do. So we released a report a couple of years ago where we questioned $1.6 million of the Emergency Rental Assistance Program. That was a grant that was sent to Oklahoma to help needy Oklahomans with their rent or utility assistance. So the state of Oklahoma gave $343 million to a nonprofit to administer to the people who needed it. And what we found was that the nonprofit had taken a management fee because they understood they were a contractor, not a subrecipient. And we questioned the $1.6 million because it was not allowed per the federal guidelines. So we warned everyone at the time, the nonprofit and the state of Oklahoma, OMES, that would likely be questioned and clawed back. And sure enough, a couple of months ago, we received the letter that they wanted $1.6 million back. Now, what's concerning is that we knew when we reported the $1.6 million that number would likely grow. And as of this recent audit that we published this week, it is now $15.5 million.
Oh my gosh. Well, you found over 93 million. Do they want all of that back as well?
No, so what we do, whenever I mention question cost is any expenditure that didn't meet the purpose of the grant, that didn't have sufficient supporting documentation, or may have appeared improper or unreasonable. That's the criteria the feds give us. And there are a lot of requirements that have to be met for each grant. So whenever we go into audit, we're looking at all of the expenditures and the documentation. Anything that doesn't align is denoted as a question cost, and we report that to the state. Some interesting numbers to know is that pre-COVID, we would see around $5 million a year in question cost. And keep in mind, that would include Medicaid, any kind of education grants, the entire total for the state. But it seems like post-pandemic, up until this year, we were seeing around $30 million in question cost. But this year, that number rose to $93 million, and that's largely because of the question cost at DHS for the daycare program.
So I imagine, does the federal government put us on a payment plan, or do we just pay that out next budget, or is that for the state legislature?
Yeah, no payment plans available that I'm aware of. They usually take it immediately. So right now I think they're trying to work with the state to see if there's any possible documentation that could offset that $1.6 million. But like I said, that's now grown to over $15 million, and we're going to have to figure out how to remedy that.
How much of this is our fault versus the federal government just throwing out so much cash during COVID?
Well, there's a little bit of blame to go around everywhere. The federal government did throw a lot of money out, and in some cases they didn't give a lot of guidance. However, when it came to the state had a lot of money, whether it was block grants or whether it was for a specific purpose. But some of the requirements for grant spending have been the same for decades. And that's where Oklahoma failed to properly monitor or provide any oversight for how these funds were spent. And those are the bulk of the question costs that we have.
You know, with Class Wallet, it was Christmas trees, video games, and grills. Now you've found Cadillacs and bathroom renovations, kitchen renovations. What happens to this stuff? Does it get repossessed as payment, or does it just stand and we learn our lesson?
Well, it's interesting that you bring up the Cadillac or the renovations to kitchens or bathrooms. So I want to point out something here. Oklahoma received $791 million for the daycare program. And the large part of that was to be spent for payroll or operations. Because Oklahoma did not put strong guardrails on how that money could be spent, Whenever we talked to the feds and said, hey, we're seeing kitchen remodels, we're putting granite countertops on, or we're seeing someone pay off a loan for a Cadillac, they said, you know, really we can't ask for that money back because it was associated with the purpose of daycare. They may have used the Cadillac to transport children. They may have needed new countertops to make their daycare work. So because Oklahoma didn't put guidelines on how people could spend that, the feds looked at it as any type of daycare purpose we're going to have to allow.
What is, your supporters have brought up an important point. You are Doge before Doge existed, it seems like.
You know, I've been saying that. We were Doge before Doge was cool.
Where I mean, I imagine you've got others that you are on deck, is that right, to look into, or are you done with COVID funds?
Well, no, COVID funds will be here again the next audit that we perform. So now we're going to be starting to look at the ARPA funds. What we've looked at so far, the CARES funds and the emergency rental assistance grants and some of the other smaller grants that came. Now, because the legislature waited to appropriate those funds, that's just falling into this next audit. So we'll let you know next year how well the legislature did with the ARPA funds.
I don't know if you can legally define this, because technically I think it is a crime, but you found a wife giving her husband money in state government. Did you find nepotism this time around? Is that the correct definition for what you found?
Well, I don't want to put a definition, but we believe that it could be a conflict of interest.
Okay.
Whenever someone at DHS is awarding a $2 million grant for a purpose that didn't even meet the grant criteria, then you've got a problem.
So let me ask you this as we're running out of time. Where did we go wrong and how do we do better?
Well, we need to start reading these audit reports that I put out, because we put clear recommendations and we also quote the federal guidelines that everyone needs to know. But the best thing Oklahoma can do is start properly monitoring the federal funds that we're giving to third parties.
Thank you so much, Auditor Byrd. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. If you would like to see my story on Auditor Byrd's newest report, or even read the audit for yourself, it is available for you on fox23.com. We do want to note the state auditor only has the power to investigate. The filing of possible criminal charges are now in the hands of Attorney General Gentner Drummond.